everybody. Welcome to the BronyCon art panel. It's nice to see you all. And without further ado, we are going to begin.
I'm primarily a traditional artist, and I hope you enjoy the panel. So, since I'm one artist, I guess this is one of my most favorite works. This is my most recent works. If anyone in here follows any of my artwork, you might know that I do ponies a little bit differently, as seen here. This is what I titled this one "Ever Pony Smile," and the whole general idea was, the first idea was it was Fluttershy's birthday, and everyone's kind of just gathering around, like, okay, so Fluttershy, let's start smiling. But then eventually it became just a little bit of a little picture that I thought was really cute. There's no background because I got a little lazy, but it turned out this has worked pretty okay, and I hope you like it. This one is this is the first time I've dabbled in trying to mix digital and traditional. I flat colored and lined it in digital, and I printed it out and watercolored it colored it with watercolors. I think it turned out okay. I might dabble a little bit more with the technique because I think I can improve some of the shading and lighting that I've worked on. But I think overall it came out to be okay. And this one is one of my more, I would say, serious digital works. I've only just started dabbling in digital artwork this year, and I think this one is where I was okay. Let's do this. I almost said it backward. There's children around, but this is something I didn't really mean to do it. I just started doodling, and I had an all-nighter to do at my college, and I was working on this critique on animation, and I ended up doodling this on breaks, and I kept coming back to it and kept adding color, and then it kind of sort of happened. It's like, oh, okay, all right, then I can get down. I call this one Tranquility. For whatever reason, if you see a lot of my Fluttershy works, especially when there's a background involved, I don't know why, I put her in water. I don't know, I guess I see her as a swan, I don't know what it is. But she goes well with water, so it ended up being another water piece for Fluttershy, I'm sorry. But I think she came out okay. Maybe I'll come back and try to improve her, but I liked it, and I hope you guys too.
Hello, my name is T-Citrus360. My real name Chris. How you doing? Hi. How many of you guys here actually have seen my artwork or heard my name before?
Well then.
That's good. Thank you so much. To those who don't know me or have not seen my artwork before, an easy trick to remember is my name is simply spelled artist backwards. Tricks you? Yeah. All right, we can go to the artwork slide. There we go. I tend to focus on a lot of realism artwork, painterly style, and this one is a good example of Cadence with Shining Armor. I was focusing on more like a Renaissance type of style. Very high contrast, moody lighting, and staring at the viewer. It came out pretty good. It takes quite a long time to paint something like this. You know, you see some artists do things real quick. It still takes a long time. It's a never-ending process of trying to figure out what method works the best for what I'm trying to do. Every single painting has a new approach for me. You know, sure, there's some techniques I apply every single time, but it's always an ongoing adventure for me. All right, let's see the next slide. That one is Twilight yawning in bed. Who here has stayed up long into the night studying for the test tomorrow? Yes, sleeps for a week. Then you definitely know how it is being up late at night, cramming for whatever you have tomorrow. This is definitely that scene of Twilight. I really wanted to capture that mood with the night setting in bed, and I honestly think she probably should not have candles on her bed. That looks dangerous. I don't do illustrations too much, but every once in a while, I try to put a lot of focus on composition elements that helps direct the viewer right to the main character. And I did see an arm, a hand raised, but that'll be saved for FAQs at the end. And thank you so much for coming, and hope to see you guys later.
All right, hi you guys. My name is NC, and first of all, I gotta just say how incredibly honored I am to be up here. Just beyond my wildest dreams, you know? Thanks, man. All right, yeah, let's go ahead and jump right into the first image. So, Black Side, man, this piece is a reflection of basically me at Arizona State. So if you guys go to college or have graduated college, you all know the struggle. So every so often when the finals or the midterms would run around, I would, if it got particularly difficult, I would draw something like this. And this was like the culmination, right? This was during one of my finals, and it was hitting me really hard. So instead of studying, I started drawing ponies.
That's the best course ever.
Absolutely. Best thing I ever did. I'm just kidding, don't do that, always study. Let's jump right into the next one, okay. This one especially is near and dear to my heart because this is the one that took me probably the most time of anything I've ever done. And this was like one of the first times that I really had a lot of help from artistic friends, you know, guys that actually knew what they were doing. Because I was butchering Celestia at this angle. It was incredibly, incredibly difficult, but I had a lot of help with it. And I think it turned out pretty darn good. This is the first time I really did a painterly style. I always do drawings. That is, like, I would include the line art at all times. You were able to always know that there was line art. You'd be able to see it right away. This one was much more painterly, especially on the feathers. I really like how this came out. And I don't paint a lot because it takes a very, very long time because of my inexperience. But I always tell people, speed comes with time and experience. So, you know, don't ever get discouraged in how long something takes. If you practice long and hard enough, you'll get to where you want to be every time. That goes for anything. So, thank you guys.
My name is Silver Slinger. I do the designing with metal, that fun stuff. And you've seen my stuff at the booth. Most of that's engraving work. But what I'm going to show you is what my true talent is: handcrafting, taking blank sheets of metal and coils of wire and turning them into works of art. This one, probably one of my personal favorites. Very emotional. First time, I would say a piece I ever made actually kind of brought a tear to my eye. You know, when I first saw that scene, when I first saw the episode, I was like, oh yeah, okay, that was okay. But you know, after you watch it over and over again, it's, you know, kind of hits you at home, you know. And a lot of 3D in this. It's very, very tricky to, you know, just take flat sheets of metal and craft them into something that's so dimensional. It takes a lot of time, a lot of practice, but if you've got the tenacity, if you've got the skill, you can do it. This is another one of my favorites. This piece is an example of a design kind of getting out of hand and somehow miraculously looking fantastic at the end. It started out as kind of a silhouette of Pinkie Pie, and then I got to thinking, I was like, you know, I ought to do a full body thing. And then I was like, oh, okay, can I make it more dimensional? Okay, can I add a party cannon in there somewhere? You know, just constantly changing. I mean, I would say every other step I was changing my mind. If I showed you the concept sketch, it might be a difference, but again, it was a ride. That one was a lot of fun to do.
So I'm SS Monkey, and well, my spelling as well, because well, the name tried to take itself out, so it's missing an S. Keep that in mind. So this year I wanted to continue something that I somehow started last year as well, like with a new year, a new style, and somehow at the beginning of each year, it feels like I just suddenly get a new style that I really get into and make. And this is part of a series that I did at the beginning of the year, where somehow things clicked and styles that I did before just came back and added or were added together with new approaches that I've learned more recently. And I just really enjoyed this smoothness, and it felt like I finally achieved something that I've been trying for years, kind of accomplishing a more historical style approach to ponies, and with this, the face shapes and the shading of the skin and even the hair, suddenly it was quite fun to do, and because it felt like it worked out, and it doesn't always feel like it works out, and somehow at the beginning of each year, fresh start, I guess maybe that helps, but sometimes it's also because of just playing with styles. You never know what you end up with, which the next slide should show, with this completely different style, like quite the opposite of fully shaded and with dark background. There's a bright background, bright colors, and even the lines are kind of bright, and there's line art. But this, like, it initially just started with Applejack Creek, but then I kind of had to add reality, kind of certain influence in the fandom, a certain gem occurs, and it just kept going and going, and I kept making where I couldn't stop. And this style somehow, like, I'm still interested in doing this style, and I didn't think I'd ever get to a point where I'd have a more cartoony or kind of light-hearted, line-based style with such soft colors and simple shading. Like, there's still some shading, and I still try to do those things, but it's been an interesting experience just getting those things, and that's why I enjoy just experimenting new styles, trying new things out, even though a lot of it just fails. But that's the fun in it, and where a failure, that's a success at one point, eventually. Right.
Hi, I am Jada Jenks, or my real name is Sam, and I've been doing pony art since, what was it, I think 2011, and something I told myself when I got into the show was, I'm never going to draw ponies. And now I'm sitting up here. Alright, so let's start the slide. So this is part of a series. I call it my Epic Main 6 series. And pretty much what I did is I took the main 6 and I decided to make them a character, like a class in some sort of like role play RPG game or whatever. So here we have Fluttershy as a druid, and this, like I said, this is part of a set, so I have the main 6 set. I have Pinkie Pie as a bard, Rainbow Dash as a warrior, Fluttershy as a mage, Twilight as a mage, Fluttershy as a druid. Applejack was supposed to be a gunslinger, but she has hooves, so I'm just like, how can she use a gun? So I gave her a lasso, and I made up an entirely new class, and I called it a Flame Wrangler because there's like fire on the lasso and stuff. And who am I missing? Finally Rarity. Rarity is a cleric, and I call her Clarity. Yeah, got that. And it's, okay, we're moving on. Okay, so anyway, so with this picture, it's really pastel, the colors are really soft, and as you know, Fluttershy is a very soft colored character. But in this picture, I decided to make her a little bit more darker in color, especially with the hair and the coat, because if she was pale like the rest of the picture, she would be invisible almost, like you couldn't see her. So it comes down all to color theory, and it's something that I learned in college about color theory and trying to balance making subtle changes to, not too drastic, but to make your picture look a little bit better and more presentable. So this is something that I took from school. So, okay, so you can move on. Now, this was a personal project of mine. Who here has seen Frozen? Okay, So do you know the song that Anna is singing, and she just jumps up and there's a picture in the background with the girl on a swing or something, and she kind of like mimics the girl or something? It's taken from this picture. Not exactly this picture, but it's actually a real picture. The title of that picture is called The Swing, obviously. And it's by, I think, Jean Hogard Fragonard. I forget the name, but it's actually, yeah, it's that, right? Okay, so anyway, so the style of the picture is from a time called Rococo, the style of picture. Now, I don't know if you guys have ever been to museums or anything, but if you see any picture that is like pastel colored and has cherubs everywhere, that is from like naked babies with wings, just like flying everywhere. That's called Rococo. And I believe it was done after the French Revolution. Okay, so this is taken from it as a parody, and I have a little story to go with it, because the original story is a little bit more risque. Yeah, so I'm not getting into that because this is PG. So anyway, so this story right here, as you see, Cadence is on a swing, and in the background you'll see Twilight. So Cadence took Twilight on a play date because obviously Cadence is her babysitter, her pole sitter. But in reality, she actually went to the park to see Shining Armor, who she loves. So that's Shining Armor hiding in the bushes. And even though Twilight thinks that she's playing with her, she's actually swinging to see Shining Armor over the bush. The little statue, the statue that's right behind Shining Armor, is a statue of Flurry Heart, which signifies their love and that one day they will be married and have a baby. That's the significance of this. So I really like the original painting that I based this off of, so that's why I decided to do this picture. And it took like 2 weeks to do, not because of the characters, but because of the foliage all around the characters. Just really detailed. And like, I think it was NC who said this, you always want to take your time with everything, because there's so many times where I wanted to just give up on this picture because I was sick and tired of just doing this. For the leaves, every single leaves, I did that. I just kept doing that. I'm just like, I'm really sick and tired of this. But I kept going. I just wanted it to end. And finally it got done, and I was really happy with the outcome. So that's what I came up with.
I'm Saushan. My real name is Eric. I have to be conservative with my voice. I swallowed a frog last night. I'm a digital painter. I just go to artwork because I'm pretty boring. So I actually did this piece for this year's BronyCon. I used to actually be a traditional painter, so one of the things I really like about digital painting is that when you draft in it, you can do so much more flexible-wise with overlap that you can't do with traditional, because traditionally, if you have a wing and a hairpiece interlapping over each other, then it means like painting this section and painting this section and painting this section. So when I was drafting this piece, I just went crazy with it. I love to do a lot of overlapping and weaving, so the wings and the hair are all doing it, but when I was drafting it was like spaghetti noodles just everywhere, because I draw all the lines without erasing them, because I kind of pick and choose where I want the overlap to be. So it was incredibly messy with 6 characters and all those gigantic wings in there, but in the end, it was actually a really fun piece to do, a lot of highlights, and I was afraid it would come out really cluttered because it had all those 6 characters in there, but I really like doing this kind of stuff because I'm really into tattoo design, and I like the kind of embellished look of stuff. Here, the next piece. This again, another one of those things where I like to do a lot of weaving in the hair, and one of the reasons I really like to do pony art is because there's a lot of room for embellishment. So with the hair, I kind of do the whole, like, it's like water in a tattoo where you have it kind of bending back on itself, and then I have a lot of the distortion in the wings. But I really love when good characters go bad. It's like my favorite thing. So this piece was really fun. When I saw the episode, I was like, oh, I gotta do that. So I've been doing a lot of Fluttershy pieces where it's either her with Discord or some variation of that. But I gotta stop talking because my voice is starting to give. Thanks, guys.
I'm Jacob. I'm Denny Vixen. My real name's Claire. You probably know me as Denny Vixen or Denny Butt. I'm all the way from the most embarrassing country ever right now, UK. But yeah, I'm going to show you two different kinds of artworks right now. I'm going to show you a traditional and a digital that I've got. So yeah, this one is a traditional. Basically, if you don't know what traditional is, it's basically like anything that's not digital. So it can be painting, like, you know, anything on paper and things like that. I feel like I'm still pretty new to traditional. By the way, for this drawing, I used Pro markers. You might know a type of pen called Copics. They're kind of like that, but cheaper and less effective. Like the tip is hard, and like on the Copics, they have more of a brush tip. But I still like using them. Plus, they're cheaper. I wanted to show this piece because I'm actually really happy with how the coloring turned out, and like it was one of those drawings where it just went right. And the great thing with Pro markers is that I can experiment a lot with them, and I really love to experiment with them because I'm still kind of new to them, so I don't really know what I'm good at with them yet. But even though it's kind of a simple drawing, you know, it's just a headshot, I'm pretty happy with it. So the next drawing I'm going to show is one of my digital drawings. It's actually a pretty recent drawing that I've done. Kind of a funny-ish reason why I drew it. I was working on a bunch of new prints for BronyCon, and I was getting pretty tired, and I was thinking, do you know what, I would really wish I was at the beach right now. So I thought, I'm going to draw my OTP at the beach. There's no like special reasoning behind the drawing, it's literally just that. But my intentions at first was to kind of draw something more romantic, but then I thought, you know what, I'm going to draw something more kind of like cutesy. So I had the kind of idea of them like kind of, at first I had the idea of them like chasing seagulls at the beach or something. And I also wanted to kind of, I wanted to draw this for this panel actually, because I wanted to show you guys an example of my backgrounds and things like that, because I haven't really got anything recent that I'm happy with that shows my drawings of my backgrounds. For a lot of my backgrounds, I use a program called Google SketchUp, and what I basically do with that is I kind of get shapes in that, or I get models in there. I kind of adjust the camera so it's at an angle, and if I want to get my background in a certain angle, it's really helpful for that, for those kind of things. This was meant to be in an angle, by the way, so it doesn't really look much like in an angle. I'm still trying to figure out, like, you know, trying to draw things in angles and making them look more, what's the word? Yeah, something like that. But yeah, also another thing, if anyone knows my artwork or anything, you probably know that I usually use a certain shading style, which is kind of like hard-looking shading style, a more cartoony shading style called self-shading. But recently I wanted to try and start using a more softer, more detailed shading style. And I haven't really yet drawn anything with that shading style with a background, so I wanted to do that with this picture. And I actually really enjoy it while I hate it so much, especially drawing hair. I had so much trouble drawing Sunset's hair. And let me tell you, I love Sunset, and by the end of this picture, I actually started to hate her. But then I loved her again. But no, and yeah, I haven't really got much to say. I'm actually really happy, by the way, with how the water turned out, because I used some textures, by the way, for my backgrounds. I actually buy my textures from textures.com, and but I actually didn't use that many in this picture, and I'm actually really happy about that. Like all the water I actually drew in myself on Sai, Paint-Tool-Sai, which is a program that I use. So yeah.
Now, all of the pictures that has been shown, are you guys all selling it at the vendor hall?
Yeah, yes.
Yes? Okay, so why don't you guys, like, I'll say where you guys are vending, just in case people like to try it.
I'm located on I'm located in 311, so you can just find me there. Of course, my vendor name is Song Number 5, so come visit me if you'd like. Thank you.
I already have.
I'm table 503, error, table not found.
I'm holding down table 502.
Mine's kind of a hard number to remember. It's table 222.
My table is 414. It's kind of in the middle of everything.
My table is 750. It's right by the con store.
I am just opposite Assassin Monkey and right next to Xiaoxin. I am table 412. Yeah. Alright, so we're going to do Q&A. You guys could line up here if you have any questions for our artists. It's not working.
Is it working? Oh, okay, there we go. Q&A, come line up here. You guys have questions for our artists. I'm going to start off and ask you guys can go down the line if you want. Who is your favorite poem?
I think we already know yours. Who's your favorite pony? What's your favorite pony? Who's your favorite pony? My favorite pony? Twilight. Okay. I got some tears. Yeah, I got a big job.
I like Fluttershy.
AJ.
I'm aside. I'm gonna check all the way.
Brody.
I might possibly maybe like Applejack.
I like you better.
It's kind of a wish.
So the question I wanted to ask, I've been having a lot of trouble with this lately, is just how do you keep the motivation up to get the piece done that you've been trying to work on?
I don't know, I'm just gonna steal the mic after this. I always know in my work that I can be better, and I want to see myself become better. I think at the core, that's the joy of drawing. And it's also kind of a bittersweet thing, because something always comes out, and you start identifying what's wrong, what can I try better. That's a good thing. So, I think that's personally that's my motivation. I always want to be better. I always look at something and say, I can do better this next time. And then I say, bring it.
Something for me, like the picture I showed you with the Rococo stuff, that took a lot of me caring about that picture, and a lot of times I just wanted to give up. I gave up 4 times before I started. I tried, and I don't like to try, and I went to bed, came back, and I started, I was like, okay, this looks good. Something that keeps me going on that picture, especially that I did a lot of live streams, because people talking to me as motivated and saying, oh, I like it, or even critiquing me. It's like, well, why don't you do this? I'm like, oh, that's a good idea. Another thing is, like, I always like to do pictures when I'm Skyping with friends, too. Like, every time you're talking to me, it keeps me talking with them, and it just keeps me going, so I'm not bored. As much also listening to music always helps me get motivated, going.
I also find like if there's like hi again. Yeah, something that I find very helpful is that if you've got inspirations, use them as motivation. Like I know when I first started getting into digital art, there was a few artists, especially this one particular artist, who I absolutely adored, and I just wanted to be as good as her. And I think that's where you kind of get the passion from. You have people you look up to, and I don't know. I just find that quite motivating. So, yeah. Welcome.
Hi there, my name's Christine. My name's Christine, and I teach AP, which is Advanced Placement Art History, as well as Advanced Placement Studio Art. So I was incredibly excited, Sam, when you were talking about Dragon Art's piece. If you don't mind, I'd like to ask you a question in regards to when you're in school or when you were in school, what would be the areas of art that the students really need to focus on? Because I can tell them until I'm blue in the face, I've been doing it for 24 years, sometimes they listen, sometimes they don't. And oftentimes I find they come back in the end and say, wow, Mrs. Dion, you were right, you know? But I'd like them to be able to hear what working professional artists who are out in the field that they're looking to go into, what was it that benefited you the most when you were going to school, or if you did your education kind of on your own and you took your own classes, you know, by yourself.
Well, I'm still currently in school, and one of the most beneficial things I've learned thus far, I'm studying to be an animator, and one of the most beneficial things I've found thus far is gesture drawing, but specifically capturing the anatomy of what you're drawing. You can't really caricature what you're drawing without knowing how it actually looks first, without it starting looking a little wonky. So you need to have the anatomy down before you start caricaturing it in order for it to look right. Another thing is knowing how to control the tool you're using and not letting your tool control you. There's a difference between relying on the material and relying on the artist, and the material can only take you so far. You have to, as an artist, know how to control your tool. Otherwise, you're not going to let yourself improve. You have to get out of your comfort box and let yourself take risk, and you have to let yourself make mistakes before you get any better.
Your students need to understand, obviously, as you know, I took art history in class. I went to art college, and they need to understand that every artist or every most successful artist that are out there in the industry, like animators, comic artists, whatever, they took inspiration from the greats. Like, for example, Alphonse Mucha is one of my favorite Art Nouveau artists, and Andy Price puts a lot of Art Nouveau texture in the hair of most of his ponies, and I see that. I even asked him, it's like, do you take inspiration from Art Nouveau? He's like, absolutely. And they need to understand that if you want to be like those people, well, learn from the ancient people. Like, put it like a side-by-side like comparison. It's like, look, do you understand, like, one of the more popular people, like artists right now, look at this, does it look familiar to this? They took inspiration from each other. So that's what I've learned in art history class.
And I'll be very brief. The only schooling I ever had was art class in high school, and actually I had an 89% in that class. All my other classes was A's, so that was my lowest class. But the main focus that I felt that should have been a stronger focus in our class was the art history, like all that Jada said about her piece and all of the history behind it, the story, the elements. I feel that if our students was more involved in the drawings, maybe even recreated so they can really feel the piece, that would go a long ways and has more appreciation for the artists of the past. So for their current projects, it has a little bit more movement and more feeling to it.
Yeah, for me also, like, I went to game art college, which isn't really that much art, but for me in hindsight, even though I didn't get to spend a lot of time in art, what was important for me was realizing my mindset towards art. Like, I was still very interested in looking deeper into it and trying to become aware of the depth of art and realizing just how far that can go, and then looking behind everything of like what the reasoning is, what the meanings of certain things can be, or just why someone does something, like what motivates them, inspires them, or what they use as reference or something. Just the depth, and just always being open for possibilities, and just looking at every artist and trying to understand their story, and realizing that you have to find your own as well, and develop your own mindset towards art in order to become an artist.
I'd say that one of the things that's important to get to students is to always think about form before style. Because most people get into art because they are doing fan art of something, so they're trying to do it in the style of that art. That's why you get a lot of anime drawings with the side mount. So, you know, And most people want things to look good right away, so they try to choose the style over form. They'll kind of shoot themselves in the foot later. You know, you're not going to learn lighting, you're not going to learn anatomy. But if you learn those things first, the style will come. Style will always come to you once you have the foundations down. You know, but the problem is that nobody wants to spend all those hours making just anatomy poses or still life, but that is the most important thing, because style will eventually come to you.
This is for Silver Slinger. As a sculptor who's looking to switch from wood to metal, do you use a laser cutter to cut and detail all of your pieces, or do you use a blowtorch and chisel?
Are you referring to the pieces that are on the screen?
In general.
Well, the stuff at my table, that I have an engraver, a CNC engraver that puts that artwork on that, and that's just to kind of meet the the demand of the general public. If I had to do all that by hand, it'd be impossible. But that kind of stuff, I actually don't have any power tools. That's all done by hand, hand saws, hand tools, files, and I do use an acetylene torch to solder it all together. The kind of thing you find someone to teach you the basics, and you just kind of develop your own style. And the important thing though is you gotta have a passion to do it. I mean, if you're doing it for the wrong motives, you're never gonna get good. It's just something you're doing because you gotta do it because you love it. That's the key. That's very important.
Hi. My question is, do you know anything that would help me draw hands better, or any techniques or anything?
Many hours.
John Hands?
Yeah, actually that is. Well, many hours, but also, yeah. Okay, well, one of the biggest taboos, I don't know why it's a taboo in the art world, but it really should be used references. You can't learn how to draw something without actually knowing how it looks, so don't be afraid to. The best thing to do is hold up your actual hand and draw what you're looking at, but photo references work just as well.
Yeah, like I said, pull out the references and do it. And also, do a 100 challenge. Draw 100 hands. It doesn't have to be all at once, but 100 hands. It may not make you perfect at hands, but it gives you a step closer.
Sometimes drawing actual shapes and like little sausage shapes really helps. I do that with all my drawings. Like I start off with shapes and then next layer is like the sketch, next layer is the line art. So try drawing little shapes and not the whole line art first.
Yeah, essentially this is like a box. This box is coming out there in 3 seconds.
Sometimes I find myself drawing like this just to see how the hand works. So, and it's kind of awkward. My mom comes in and just like, what are you doing? Why is your hand like that? I'm like, no, I'm just drawing. So, yeah, just using like actual references work.
I don't think so.
Thank you.
So speaking of references, I know you mentioned using full SketchUp, but do any of you use free programs for reference or like layout of your work?
I don't have a program for references, but I do use a screenshot program called ScreenFlow. And instead of just taking screenshots, it saves itself in its own little library, and I can add tags to it. Like, oh man, I need to draw hands. I type in hands. All my references of hands pops up. Oh, I need to draw a guy. Okay. All right. How about a guy with red hair? Guy red. Oh, how about a guy with red hair being a ballerina dancing? Okay. Over time, my library builds and builds and builds, and I just have a easy to access personal library of references. So if you find not ScreenFlow, that's a Mac program, maybe Adobe Bridge also has a tagging system. There's a lot of programs that allows you to tag images, so get involved in tagging your references for easy access.
Are you talking about like, are you trying to find references to help you with pictures? Oh, 3D programs.
I've used Maya, which is actually an animating 3D program, which I learned in university. The only useful thing I learned in university, by the way. So that helps because it's kind of like it's kind of the same way as I use it for Google SketchUp. You know, I just kind of like change the angle of things, and it helps me like draw certain things in another angle. So.
I don't really use 3D programs as a reference in terms of the shapes. I tend to use fairly organic shapes, so I don't really need it. But something that I do sometimes look at for 3D renders is the ambient occlusion, if you're familiar with that, which is a concept that's just familiar with in real life as well. It's functional there, and I definitely got inspired by 3D models and 3D renders to create some of the figurine-like styles that I have in my gallery. So that's, I guess, a bit of a way to use 3D programs as well.
Also, if you're interested in making 3D art, there's also a program called ZBrush. I'm not, I've tried to use it and I'm so confused by it. I really need to sit down and look at a tutorial, but I've seen people make some pretty nice stuff in there, so you could try that out if you're interested in making any 3D art.
Question for Denny. This one's a doozy. How did, what's your inspiration for your art style, or did you just make it up yourself?
I mean, when I first kind of started, I mean, the first thing first of all, I've always loved ponies, but when Friendship with Magic came around, I discovered Tumblr blogs, Tumblr art blogs, and I wanted to make one, and then, you know, I started off trying to draw in the show style, and then I thought one day, do you know what, I've never really seen people draw ponies in a Disney style. So I kind of tried to draw ponies in a Disney style, and that's kind of where it started. I mean, for things like anatomy and things like that, you know, I've got inspirations like a song over there, because she draws absolutely amazing anatomy for ponies. And yeah, I mean, that's just how my style kind of started off.
Right, next one.
Oh my God, what?
So, my question is about kind of when you're not really feeling like drawing a lot of art, like you're just not really feeling it. Sometimes there are some artists that say, that's fine, just wait for inspiration. There's other artists that say, that doesn't matter, sometimes you just kind of keep grinding through it, and that way you can always improve. Where do you guys draw the line between forcing yourself to draw and just trying to have fun with it?
It's honestly different with everyone. I mean, I try to force myself, but honestly, it just never really works personally for me. So I have to like step away for a while and do something else. And when I come back later, I might feel better or I might not. For other people, you know, making themselves work, it might work for them. It's different for everyone, but like whatever works for you. I mean, like I said, what works for me is just like doing something else for a while.
The last time I tried forcing myself to draw was for a grade in art college, and I hated that feeling. I felt like art was for a job and not for a hobby, but I understand that art college is preparing you for making your hobby into a career. But anyway, sometimes when I want to draw, I can't. First off, has anybody seen Kiki's Delivery Service? Of course. Okay. Do you know when she's in the forest and she meets this artist girl living with all the ravens? There she says something in that movie that is me. She says sometimes she cannot draw a single thing. When like she wakes up and she can't draw. And other times when we're out of the mood, she draws like the most magnificent things. And that's how I feel. Like, if you just doodle every day, like, it doesn't even have to be like, oh, I have to draw something amazing. If you just like, I don't know, have a pad of paper or like a sketchbook or something and a pencil, and you just like, I don't know, go to a park or sit down and just like do something, or anywhere. You just take a sketchbook with you. It's just something that my illustrator teacher taught me. Just like have a sketchbook with you, draw something. It doesn't care what it is. It will like help you improve, and also you're also sketching and you're not realizing it, and you might, get something amazing in the sketchbook. So.
That's actually what I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
Like Danny said, that is indeed different for everyone. Like for myself, I discovered that I have a pretty horrible habit that's I'm afraid of breaking routines. So when I get myself in a routine, it's hard for me to get out, or like I'm afraid to get out of it because I'm afraid I'll never start it again. So somehow I managed to get a Saturday stream routine. Every Saturday I stream. I end up streaming for 14 hours, and sometimes I think like, why am I doing this? But somehow, because my mind works like that, I just keep going, and at the end of the day, I'm like, how did I finish this? But also in general, just on other days, I don't have that routine, so I have to rely on other things. And I found that if you break things down, and like if you're working for a deadline for a project or in this industry, something's a bit different. But if you're just working for yourself, trying to improve yourself in art, art is a broad subject. So don't be afraid to break things down into smaller chunks that you do like to draw, get inspired by. If you want to become a creature artist and you don't want to make creatures or don't feel like it, then just make a claw or an eye or a nose or like just skin or a certain color, a scale or something like that. Because it doesn't matter how small it is, if it's related to what you're working towards, it's still a step that you're making. So the time that you're spending is still useful.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. So when you're sitting there with like a blank picture and you're trying to figure out what you're going to draw, like how do you do it? Yeah.
You mean like draw inspiration to find what you want to draw?
Yeah.
Everyone has their own way of finding inspiration. There's similar ways, but no one has the same method of getting inspiration. But sometimes sometimes I doodle, just throwing stuff onto the page, like that Photoshop thing, I doodled her and suddenly she became what you saw. And sometimes I use thumbnailing. And that's especially good if you have an image in your head and you can't seem to put it down. Thumbnailing is a good way to find the structure that you want or the composition that you want without spending so much effort and time and materials on that image. You can they're really small, you can throw them away if you don't like them, but I would advise not throwing them away. Because sometimes, what one of my college professors said is, no idea is a bad idea. Because you might think one idea is bad now, but if you revisit it some other time in the future, it might turn out to be a good idea. So I advise not to throw away any of the sketches that you don't like, because you might end up finding something that you would like to draw in that. Other ways is watching movies. I really like to play video games, and that helps me get my creative juices flowing, and listening to music. Whatever works for you is the best way.
What I like to do to get over a blank canvas is just do random doodles, like she said. Random sketches before I do the main drawing. I call them just warm-up doodles. Or, a good way of practicing your creative powers. And you just bring your sketchbook wherever you go, like what we mentioned earlier, sort of heart and everything, and just start drawing. But just like my friend out there in the audience right now, yeah, I see you. Yeah, I see you. Just start drawing wherever you are.
Okay, I'm Gabriel, and this is a slightly different question than what I had planned. But for all of you, if you have a small idea that you really like, and you want to expand this idea into a world, a living, breathing universe, what is the best way that you can do that?
Research. I do a lot of headcanon if you watch me. Or what look at any of my art and actually do the wall text
where I type essentially paragraphs of how I think the pony world works. What is a good way to building a world of your own is knowing how the world now works. That way you have a basis to work off of, and then you can work on making your own world, like history, especially history. If you want something like your own culture, you're going to have to know how that culture formed. So you research. You have to do it. I would highly suggest doing it.
Yeah, kind of going off of what Urs just said, having that basis, that's very important because that's what allows you to have your audience will have that suspension of disbelief. That's where it comes from. It's from that basis. There is that familiarity to it. Because you can tell when something is so far out there, it's like, oh man, how could that ever happen? But you know, in movies and games, they draw us in because there is something familiar about them. And that's exactly what they're just talking about. I just want to add that on.
I'm still very fresh to concepting. I'm actually being taught myself. But what they say is pretty true. Start to build from the world up. That's very base level. Trying to figure out how things work. And, you know, like how does this character move? You can't just have like slap with a bunch of metal that's called armor. How would that armor move? And stuff like that. So a lot of research is involved.
A lot of patience is involved too. It's you got to understand it's one of those things that you're not going to do overnight, and there will be times you'll get frustrated. You might even want to quit, but you just got to keep going. You just got to keep driving forward, and in the end, it's worth it. It really is.
Thank you.
Hi everyone. I'm someone who would like to start with drawing, and as someone who has no experience in drawing, creating art. Oh my! How would you suggest in starting, and in what ways? And I'm giving you a heads up, I'm not interested in another university because of it.
So you're trying to figure out how to be an artist and you don't want to start in a university, correct? Yeah. Okay. What you can do is go to, first of all, where are you from exactly?
I'm from the Czech Republic.
Okay. I've met some Czech Republic people here. Okay, so anyway, go to your bookstore. If you were from here, I'd say go to Barnes & Noble. I'm not sure if there's a Barnes & Noble in Czech Republic or anything. Okay, so go to a bookstore, go to an art section or something, get some sort of how to draw anatomy. What are you interested in drawing? Okay, ponies. There is a book, I forget what it's called, but Larry had, do you know this How to Draw a Pony book? Never mind. Okay, he has a book, there's a book that's out which says How to Draw Ponies. It's, I believe, online or it's on Barnes & Noble. It looks exactly like the show ponies, but it's not, as in like they put in some words like they call the cutie marks butt marks or something or something like that. It's a published book and that helps people how to draw ponies. You can also go to online tutorials. There is a lot of artists who puts up tutorials of how to draw ponies. If you go to a convention, there are panels that tells you how to draw ponies. I can show you after the panel how to draw a pony if you want. Okay, that'd be cool. So there are many ways of how to draw things that you don't have to go to school for. You don't have to go to school for how to draw, okay? I went to school because I felt like I wanted a fallback plan, okay? So just because I'm going to convention and doing all this like vending stuff, I'm just like once ponies is over, once I'm done doing this, once I'm married, have a family, whatever, I would like to fall back to graphic design, and that's what I'm going to do from there. It's always good to have a a backup plan for things. So that's what I'm doing.
And trust me, you don't need to go to university to learn art.
No, you don't. You can do it from your own home.
Yeah.
I do have one recommendation, like you said about online tutorials and everything. One very basic one is called, if you've been to my stream, you heard this many times, controlpaint.com. That's control like on the keyboard, CTRL. This artist has been making videos like every Thursday, and he has a huge library of free videos on many topics of the very basic fundamentals of drawing and figuring out digital art and pencil art. Yeah, controlpaint.com. The guy's pretty good at explaining things.
And the number one thing that I ever tell anybody is never, ever give up. Because that's where most every artist, every budding young artist fails. Is that it feels like you're spinning your wheels and I've been for years on that. I spent years, 5 years, hating my drawings. I hated how they came out, I hated drawing. But at the same time, like I said earlier, I knew I could be better. I knew I could always improve. And eventually there came a point where I was somewhat satisfied, finally. And then I said, okay, maybe this can be fun. And I kept on going. So, you know, there's going to be moments where you feel like it's just going nowhere. But just keep on going. Because whenever that happens, you could be just on the cusp of breaking that barrier. You know? So don't ever give up, man.
Exactly. To add on that, indeed, like just never giving up and always, well, keep making steps and keeping an open mind towards what you're seeing around yourself. Like even if it's just looking up tutorials and keeping an open mind by looking up more different tutorials for different things, but even open mind towards if you're walking outside, looking at nature or thinking about like looking at animals and thinking about how would you draw them, and maybe even questioning like how do others draw these animals, like how do they visualize them, and basically just keeping an open mind, because if you're especially beginning, there's a lot out there and there's a lot of different ways that you can approach something, so you'll want to keep an open mind, trying to find what works for you, and if something doesn't work for you, maybe you have to move on, try that out, but the more you try, the more you can compare and like see what you're comfortable with and want to continue with.
And also, don't be afraid to keep your old drawings and your old stuff, because one day, years down the road, you'll feel like you're not going anywhere, and you'll pick up that old art from long ago and compare, and you'll just be like, wow. And you'll realize, okay, I am getting a lot better, and I'm on the right step, and it's a good feeling when you notice that.
I think everyone here can attest to that. If we all saw a picture we did last year, we'd all cringe.
Everybody starts somewhere, man.
Yeah.
That's right. Ask any professional. People have different ideas of what talent is. Like, in my opinion, true talent is like a God-given gift, you know. I know this girl, I don't know her personally. I think she was from Norway, somewhere in Europe. But at 5 years old, she was making portraits, realistic portraits, paintings. And they were fantastic. I think that's true talent. The rest of us usually aren't so lucky. You know, so you guys getting professionals, they worked hard, long and hard, taking all this advice that my fellow artists, seminars, have been dishing out. So, you know, everybody starts somewhere. All of them, from professional, amateur, hobbyists, all the way up to Walt Disney, you know.
I usually say artists are 10% skill, 90% hard work and tears.
I'm giving a digital painting workshop at 10:30.
There you go.
It's just down the hall.
There'll be cookies and punch by the door.
Thank you. Bob Ross says there's no mistakes, only happy little accidents.
And don't be afraid to use references. it's really just, it's kind of a must when it comes to art. You know, it's not a bad thing, it's kind of a must. And the only way you're really going to improve is if you see how, like if you're struggling with something you're drawing, is to see how it's drawn, how it's actually drawn. That's something that's really like helped me improve a lot, is having references.
And also, don't be afraid to get a second opinion when you really feel like you just can't get it right, because don't forget, you are your own worst critic.
You sound like you have my problem. I hyper-focus when I can't do something, then it becomes a problem and I have to fix it. You know, and when you get in that zone, you're going to keep it. So when you write something down, you erase it, you write it down wrong, like you got to stop, walk away, come back with fresh heart. You know, get another person to sit down and say, oh, it looks great because of this. But try not to zone in on what's wrong and just step away from it.
There's so many times I finished a picture, like my swing picture, I finished it, I was like, thank God, I don't want to touch this anymore. And I posted online, and some of the comments came back like, Shining Armor's head is too big for his body, can you fix it for me? And I'm just like, what? So I went back to the picture, and sure enough, his head was a little too big for his body, so I went back, fixed it, and everything. So you always want to get a second opinion. What I should have done is I always love to, once I've done a picture, I love to post it up online. I'm done. Yay, here's the world seeing all my pictures. But what I should have done is, okay, I'm done. I'm going to go to bed, come back. Oh, there's the mistake. That's what I should have done.
One time I posted Fluttershy without her wings. and she was in the air. Showing people your work progress is a great idea because you absorb your own mistakes over time. As I said, you need a refresher. You need a refresh.
Another thing to kind of think of, every one of those mistakes is a stepping stone in the learning process. You know, think of them like that. You know, and another thing, like I was saying, we're gonna make mistakes, so always get a second opinion. Like I was drawing Celestia recently, like in the sunlight with the sun rays, and we get to the end of the stream. It's been like 7 hours, right? And I finally realized I snapped her neck.
Oh.
She had a profile view, right? And the back was at an angle. And it's like, wow. I did not notice it. But I don't know what it is with Celestia and me drawing them in weird angles. Or yeah, I sent it, you know, to my little art group, and I would highly advise you do that. Find some, you know, people that are, you know, more or less kind of at your skill level at least, or even just anybody out in art. Because I always tell people, you don't have to be an artist to know to spot something wrong from perspective. People can spot that. You know, so don't be afraid to get that second opinion. And I did it. They did some redlining. We got it squared away, and I think we came out with something halfway decent by the end. But yeah, always get a second opinion. And if you need to, step back and reset. Come back with a fresh mind.
And you have to be willing to take critiques. Like, you can't be an artist and just say, oh, my art's perfect and stop it. You know, you just have to, like, if somebody says, look, your art's nice, but I think you should work on this area, you should think that they are trustworthy and they're not trolling you, then yes, take it. Okay, take advice. Other people's advice is good because artists are biased with their own stuff. It's like our babies. Like, if you're saying bad stuff about our babies, it's fighting words. You don't take that as fighting words. Take that as, okay, so how should I make this better? Yeah.
We do have to be members to do that, though.
Oh, you do?
I mean, constructive comments just as good.
No.
As an artist, I know kind of the California that you get, and attitude, perspective, forward, doing all these things right. But drawing cartoons always runs that gray line between down and here. Figure out how to draw a specific character. You saw the country of the character, or something real life.
Before Joshua answers the question, can you repeat the question one more time into the mic for the video recording? Like the paraphrase version?
Yeah. Do you start with references related to real life or references of the character?
So, I would personally say start with references of real life, because despite the fact that the character is drawing a fine line between reality and fantasy, there's still that basis. It goes back to suspended disbelief. You can believe they exist because they still have the same, they have that familiarity that you need in order for it to work. If the pony's anatomy is incorrect and the knee is on their spine, it's not going to work. Despite the fact you say, oh, it's a cartoon style. Well, it won't work because why is the knee on its back? You need that basis in order to push past it and still make it believable and appealing to the eye.
I would like to say study reality before you break it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
For sure, like Bill Watterson, he's the comic artist behind Calvin and Hobbes. He was actually a really incredible artist. He could really draw. Despite having that cartoon aspect, whenever he would draw his landscapes for Spaceman Smith and stuff, or his dinosaurs, he had an understanding of anatomy and all that stuff before he got into comics.
I actually, like when I first started doing digital art, I drew a lot of like actual horses. I was really into that, so I did get like the feel of like the proper equine anatomy. So when it came to drawing ponies, it was a lot more simple for me because I kind of already got the idea of like where everything is meant to go. And, so yeah, I definitely recommend like studying like the more realistic anatomy first.
And it also depends if you just want to make fan art, like if you want to make a pony and you want to model it after the show style, then look at the show style, obviously. But if you want to create your own style, then I say look at other things, like other realistic things, like she said, look at horses.
Hi. Sorry. Guys, question, we're not ask one or two questions, or no?
Yeah, you can ask me.
This one quick one. First one is, let's say you want to like download a kind of an art program to draw, like digital art, but like, you see you don't like break the bank and spend like $1,000 on a program. Is there anyone that you recommend? Like, it's like with like $100 or $200?
Paint Tool Sai is pretty cheap. And it's a program that a lot of us artists use, and it's very smooth with brush strokes and things like that. It's got a lot of useful things on there, and it's not very expensive at all. So
yeah, it's very cheap. It's very cheap. I think it's in some ways better than Photoshop. My friend uses Manga Studio for art sometimes, but also you can use Adobe products for a monthly fee. You don't have to buy the program. The program is like $1,000-something or $600, but they've started a thing where you can pay $20 a month and use the program. Yeah, $10 a month. If you want the creative suite, it's like $20 or something. If you're a student or I don't know, so something like that.
I was wait like this. What's the most difficult pony for each of you guys to draw?
What's the most
difficult pony for you guys to draw?
difficult pony?
Yeah.
With the way I draw Pinkie Pie's curl, she'd probably be the hardest, but she's also the most fun because I love drawing hair, and her hair is so crazy that I end up feeling crazy with it. So Pinkie Pie for me, but she's never a chore for me.
For me, is actually Twilight. For painting, I have troubles with purples and oranges. I mean, I calibrate. I need to figure out what's wrong. I always look super saturated, and I'll use my other monitor. It's different. Thus, only Applejack and Twilight. It's just weird.
Yeah, I agree. Maybe Celestia or Rainbow Dash. Not really so much Rainbow Dash. She has clear cut, colors between her main. But Celestia is very strange to blend. Because I like to blend her main a lot, so I'd say her. Painting white was always strange. very, very strange to paint shadows and shade white.
I guess for me, the short answer would be anything that's not that much difficult pony for me to make. But depending on what aspect, like for me, same with Ash, depending on the approach I take, the amount of color that she has can be a bit of a pain. Like if I'm working grayscale, then adding the color, but making sure that the values and everything matches up, like it can be a bit tricky to get it right. Also, I kind of gotten used to it once I started making English a bit more often. But I think the one that I'm more consistently having trouble with is that I've actually made is Pinkie Pie comment. That's because of her hair. Like I tried to make it very three-dimensional, and Pinkie Pie's hair is kind of like a puzzle, an enigma. Like how does it function in 3 dimensions? Which, yeah, it stays true to herself, I guess. So, yeah.
I'm still trying to figure out Pinkie Pie's hair, but pretty much any pony that is white, that is really hard for me to just like color in, just because you can't really highlight them. You can shade them, but you can't highlight them. So it's really hard for me to like shade them and make them, with me putting them in a background, they look like they're glowing. And I'm just like, okay, how do I get you stop glowing, just dim it down a little bit? So I need to like figure out like if you want to make a white pony character like Rarity or Shining Armor or something, you want to start with like not pure white. You never want to start with pure white on a pony. You want to start with like Rarity is like an off blue, like a really, really light blue. Celestia is a really, really, really light pink. I think Shining Armor is the only pony that is actually pure white, and you know that because he has blue eyes. Like the whites on his eyes are blue. Then that's just to define, like it doesn't like mix in with his coat color. And the reason I just don't like the white ponies. And I have the same reason with the black ponies too. Like Nightmare Moon, I can't shade her. It's the complete opposite problem.
Does my own OC count?
Yes.
Sometimes, I don't know if you guys know Joan, the guy with the jacket who's always smoking. He has very messy hair, but the way his hair is a certain way. It's like so precise. It's messy, but it's like so precise. And sometimes I have so much trouble drawing it, and it's just crazy. But besides that, I would agree with Jade. Like I have trouble like shading like very, very dark ponies. Like sometimes I've gone in the past, like when I've had to do commissions and someone's had like a pony with pure black hair, and I've had to actually tone it down myself just so I could shade it.
That's another panel talking about black ponies.
But yeah.
You were saying you were recommending getting an anatomy book first off, and I was just wondering, any books in particular, like their names you recommend, and not just for anatomy, just in general?
The best things for studying anatomy would be the actual real thing, but since that's not always available to you, I don't have the books on mine right now. I apologize. Next time I say with these photos, you can just look them up, no problem. It is, of course, cheaper, but instead of just going out and buying the book and then maybe not really looking into the book, but if you have the ability to go out and actually look at what you're drawing, say tiger, and you have a zoo, make some time to go out, take a sketchbook, and do some quick drawings of the tiger. Because if you see whatever you're trying to look at moving, even if it's an inanimate object, you'll have a better view of how it would work on a two-dimensional paper.
And a specific book I would recommend is one I got myself. It's called Color and Light by James Gurney, and he's the creator of Dinotopia. And the book dives into a variety of different type of lights, even like overcast lighting and indirect light sources. And the book is geared more for oil paint, but it's actually probably better. It really opened up to a world of different type of lighting that I didn't even realize even existed. And Yeah, it's definitely a good read. I always have the book underneath my table. Once again, it's Color and Light by James Gurney, or you just Google Dinotopia tutorial book.
Another thing I want to recommend when you have your books, even comic books, don't be afraid to trace. All right, I know that's another huge taboo. The thing is, it's one of the only ways sometimes we can realize how an artist went about achieving a particular line. I remember when I was starting out, Andy Price was a huge inspiration, particularly that piece in the fourth issue of it, where Christmas and Twilight were facing off in this epic action pose, and I traced the heck out of that thing. I never posted it. I never ever posted it, but that gave me, the kind of push I needed to realize where the how dynamic pose, how the hair, how we capture that still action. So don't be afraid to trace, just don't post it. Or if you do, provide proper credit.
And if you need like poses and like drafts and anything, DeviantArt, there are people that actually are models, the people models for the camera. This is what everyone uses free to use. So if they say you're free to use them as a model, you can just go to DeviantArt and say fighting pose model. I did like some character studies. I did 2 character studies from like World of Warcraft girls that I did an undead and orc model studies. So you can just go to DeviantArt and check it out. It's like everywhere.
There's also a website, I think it's called Pose Maniacs or something, I'd have to look it up. But there's like a whole bunch of different models on there, and you can actually like turn the models around and things like that and move them in different angles. And I've always found that website really useful when I'm doing things.
Thank you.
Hello. Hello. My nemesis is lighting and shading. What advice and what kinds of things have you learned about that?
Something that I definitely with lighting and shading and trying to grasp it is there are different elements, and the simplest breakdown would be, or like this is one of the simplest forms would have just basic shapes, white shapes with a white background with a spotlight on them. Because it eliminates color, and because of the whiteness, it allows a full range of shades, and it gives a good idea of the shape and how it's represented in 3 dimensions, and it also involves perspective to it. So those are all already big elements of art that go quite deep. So just by the fact of eliminating as many other elements, it allows you to focus and practice that. And it's something that you can also set up at home to practice quite easily. You can just make it out of paper or use different materials and see how different materials react on the light, and like move spotlights, add spotlights, use different lights, things like that. Because there are a lot of varieties of light. Like with the book with James Gurney, just the different lights and realizing and just going through all of them, becoming more familiar with them, allows you to understand shapes and be able to also make them on paper or digital or whatever better.
I don't know how helpful this would be, but if you're shading digitally, try to avoid shading with the color black. I always found that kind of, I don't know, I always prefer using colored, like a color for the shading. Like for example, if I'm shading Twilight, I would probably use a very dark purple, and then maybe change the opacity or something on whatever art program I'm using. But I would never use pure black, because it's just more effective using a color, like a color that's not black when shading.
It also depends on your surroundings. If your character is in a very warm colored area, you'll use warm colors, like reds and oranges and yellows. Usually not yellow. Yellow is not really like a shading color, but usually you like use warm colors. Depending if your character is in a cool colored place, you use like blues and purples and greens, because those are like for example, like orange, I'm sorry, yellow. Let's use yellow as a primary color. If it's in a cold area, you'll use like a purple or something, because purple and yellow are complementary colors, and purple goes very well with yellow in a way. And in yellow is in warm colored areas, orange and red.
Something I like to do as well when I draw the shading on a separate layer, and something I like to do when I've drawn all the shading and stuff is change the hue and just experiment with it and see which color kind of looks best. Art is all about experimenting, so you know.
And I'm not sure this got covered yet or not. I'm so sorry. That's a good recap. A very basic thing can really improve any beginner artist on a digital tablet is to not shade with a pure white background.
Oh yes.
Give yourself a 50% gray, or even paint the background first, so you have a better feel of what kind of tones you're supposed to do. Like if you shade the whole character in white and start putting in its background that's dark, all of a sudden your character just don't look right.
I don't mean to plug my workshop again, but I'm going to cover those topics. We're talking about two different things. We're talking about color temperature, which is what we were talking about earlier. And then there's flow. So lighting and shade is all form. You'll see that classic egg. You'll see a classic egg, and then the reason you're asked to always practice doing that is because that egg is going to make up these three circles on your nose or your entire face. And you're using a simple form, and you're going to use it to construct a complex shape. So this may not be three eggs or anything, but it's going to mold, and this is going to cast a shadow. So you're starting to get more sophisticated, but you have to start at that basic shape.
And I'm just adding on to what they said, because the other thing is this all also applies to traditional art if you ever feel like dabbling in it. And with a lot of images, animation especially, but a lot of in any image, what you gotta consider is the context of what you're doing. What you're trying to capture is the background, where the character is, especially the mood you're trying to convey. Like if you're trying to convey like a more dramatic setting, despite the time of day, the lighting and the colors used are going to help push that mood further. And if you can't use them to your advantage, it might fall a little through. So make sure you take everything into context before you color. But I highly recommend coloring your background first and knowing what kind of mood you're searching for before you color the actual character yourself. Thank you.
Hello. Hi. I'm a new artist, and one of my biggest problems is whenever it comes from the rough sketch to finalize it. I have a hard time keeping my hands steady. In that nature, play sports most of my life, so I have ligament damage and all that kind of jazz. I'm wondering if you guys know any tips or tricks, or somebody else who's had this type of issue that they would overcome. Are you traditional or traditional?
Traditional.
Trying to learn.
Yeah, I have tendonitis from my trying to get it from your elbow and not doing this. So make on sweeping motions, repetitious motions. And be confident with your lines when you're moving like this. Yeah, and just take the line.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I was just wondering, from what you guys have seen over your time, what's a very common mistake that you've seen people do, or maybe you've done yourself, and what's a good way or a good recommendation to get past that?
Something I've always seen is balance. Something doesn't balance. Our eyes get tricked into thinking that something is correct over a matter of time. And so a very effective counteract to that is mirroring the canvas if you're on digital, or holding up a traditional piece to a mirror or up to a piece of light in its paper. And that will help you to identify where mistakes are, because
You should look it up both sides.
yeah, always
It's mirrored,
something's
because if
correct.
it's not, something might be off.
Exactly. You know, always look correct, no matter which perspective it's on.
For me, it's keeping the character proportions in the proper plane and angles. Like every once in a while, I like as a sketcher, I'm just about to paint or in the middle of the painting, I realize, wait a second, why is the eyes on a different plane compared to the mouth? Like the mouth is right over here, the eyes are over here. It's like, wait, is that? Yeah, it happens to me quite a lot. And so whenever, just before I start lining, I'm always looking at those planes and seeing if things are a little off, like the nostrils, the eyes, the ears, the bottom, the chin, and where the feet plays in this, the shoulders, and if it's a proper proportion. Little tip, but that's my little tick, I guess you could say. That's always bugging me.
Sometimes a mistake a lot of artists will make is, kind of getting in a hurry. Sometimes you're so anxious to do the next step that you kind of rush through the beginning stages, and you might make a little mistake that as you do the next step and the next step and the next step just turns into a bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger mistake until you look at the finished product and you're like, oh my God.
When I snap this,
Exactly, like the last 2 points. Like for me, something that I kept noticing and just keep doing wrong is just body proportions, just proportions overall. Like when I'm working on a face, I might change like the shape or the size of the face, and then I move to the legs, and then the legs turn longer, just slowly, like just tiny bits, like pixels over time. But then when I zoom out, I notice that. But at the same time, zooming out is also my fix for the problem, because then I spot it and I can change it. So it's kind of become a cycle of I make a mistake, I just fix the result, but not the cause of it. So I just keep on making it, and I can't break to that cycle, so I keep making that mistake. That's my tick or something with proportion. I just can't see the entire picture when I'm focused on one part somehow. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Coming up again, just that question from all of you. Absolutely. It's kind of a funny one though. For anyone of you guys who takes commissions, what are some of the weirdest commissions you gotten, or any commissions that you just flat out rejected?
Weirdest commissions? Oh boy.
Ones you taken, or any ones that you kind of rejected, like thinking to yourself, that's don't get fun with that one.
The weirdest commission I ever got, I cannot say because it's way too not safe for work.
Oh Lord.
I cannot say it, but I'll leave it to your imagination. I had to refuse it, and I've actually never refused a commission, but I had to refuse this one because it was absolutely insane. I mean, you're welcome to ask me what it is like after the panel or anything.
There was this one person who came up to me. I've never talked to this person before. First time, and his first PA note to me was, "My request is," and he started talking about how he wanted some sort of not safe for work thing with kind of test color torn Applejack and hoofsies. Yeah, that right there, and I'm just like, no, I'm not drawing that. Yeah, exactly. That was the weirdest one.
Yeah, I've actually had requests like that before too, and those people, I would tell them just flat out no, and they'd be like, oh, just disguise your art, man. They'll think it's someone else. And I'm like, but I think the one commission that I did accept that I kind of regretted was you've seen them in my DB art gallery, is the Somber Crown and the Element of Magic Tiara. I mostly accepted them to see if I could do it. But the problem is my shop is not equipped to make things that big. It's kind of like a surgeon trying to do an operation with a butter knife. I was trying to use equipment this small to make something this big, and it was probably the worst bump of my life.
I'm notorious, I guess, for not taking commissions very often, so I can't really talk about that. I don't think painting like 5 ever. So you probably have much better stories than I do.
Can I be number 6? Let's see. The weirdest commission is just like a combination of things added onto each other. One is a giant Discord Twilight, with Discord horns and eyes and all that kind of stuff. Actually, I checked the guy's blog. It's pretty cool. I'm not sure he's here right now. Are you here? No. Okay. And it was a Discord Twilight traditional piece, and gave Rainbow Dash a big lid that's tiny. She's a tiny Rainbow Dash, and Rainbow Dash all curls up. It was fun. I enjoyed it, and he has a fun blog. But one weird commission I was not real proud of. Well, it was explicit, and I did not want to post it anywhere, but I kept it on my private stash on DeviantArt, and that link got leaked. Someone reported it to DeviantArt. I immediately got banned without a word, and I was offline for 6 full months. Yeah, it was an explicit piece that was not seen anywhere. I did not want to post it anywhere. And yeah, it was someone in retaliation against me. And finally I explained to DeviantArt that I never wanted to do this, and can I please have it back? Stuff like that. And I finally got my DeviantArt back. So that's a heads up, by the way. If you have anything on your stash in DeviantArt, DeviantArt's guidelines do apply to stash, even if it's private.
When it comes to commissions, with commissions in general, simple, there are certain things I don't want to do to that project. That's
Do we have time for one more? Or? Okay. Hey guys, I'm a big fan. Come here pretty late because I've had 2 years or something like that. And follow up to that guy's question right there. What advice do you have for people who are looking to commission either you guys or any artists out there? If that hasn't been covered.
If you want to start commissioning,
Or as in just requesting a commission.
Okay. Well, the top main things I look for is mainly please have a reference. Please. It's nice to have descriptive. I can work off of descriptive, especially if you want me to create character. But if you have a character, please, love of God, have a reference, because I can't know how your character looks without you actually showing me. I've had a couple of commissions where they've never shown me the character looks except for saying, oh, he's yellow. Okay, what else is he?
If you want a color commission, please give me a colored reference, not line art.
I would also like to add that you might not like the price when you get it, and if you don't, that's fine. But please don't take it out on the artist. We've had some. I'm sure some of us have had. I've had it happen a lot of times where I've been accused and called some pretty bad names because people were like, "That's a rip-off." And I was like, "Do you have any idea what goes into this?" We've all worked real hard to get where we're at, and when you charge a price or something, it's reasonable. Trust us.
There's no such thing as the art button. You don't press the art button.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
There's not an app for that.
For myself, I like a few details. I'm not talking about like a 20-chapter story about an OC or anything like that. No, I understand some. I understand some commissioners loves to give the artist freeway, their creative freedom. But I like to at least know the personality type and what the character likes, don't like, and just jog like an idea or side. If you give me a character that's like blue, red hair, and you're like, be creative, I'm like. Otherwise, I'll just draw the character on its side. I can't be. It's not my character. I don't know what I'm supposed to do with it.
It's not a creative color. That's all I got. Thanks for coming, guys.
Thank you all for coming.
One more quick thing. Thank you all for your constant support. We couldn't be here if it wasn't for you, and
and you keep us going. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Quick, yell out your favorite pony.
Rainbow Dash.